Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our Wars of Light and Shadow discussion series. Today, we start discussions for Grand Conspiracy, which is the fifth book in said series, which Chris is swiping across the scene. I got it that time.
Yeah.
The series is authored by Janny Wurts, who we have the pleasure of meeting at the end of every one of these discussions. And Chibipoe is holding up his
Oh, nice.
cover of the book, which I think I like more than the one I have. But we are reading this three chapters at a time. For the time being, I think we have to decide and adjust on a schedule. But at the moment, it seems like we're going to do three chapters per discussion, which we hold every 2 weeks. Today's discussion, of course, is going to be for chapters 1 to 3, and we have the usual group of friends here. Chibipoe, would you like to start us off with introductions?
Of course, Chibipoe, longtime reader. Here's the usual stuff. And lurker on page tunings. I love these books. This is the best book ever. And I hope everybody else loves it.
Robyn.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. Hi, I'm Robyn, Bookends and Biscuits YouTube channel. Also page chewing lurker. Yeah, really enjoying this series. We'll ask Chibi if he means this book specifically or the series. But in the meantime, I guess I'll pass over to Jared. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm Jared, and I have the Fantasy Thinker YouTube channel you can check out, where I will often talk about these books occasionally, and I'm on page chewing forums as well. Chris.
Yeah, my name's Chris Mohan. Sometimes YouTuber, sometimes appear on other people's channels talking about cool books and movies and whatever else. And we discussed briefly, I was speaking off mic with Jared and Varsha on Friday, wasn't it? We're recording this on Sunday. That Varsha had flicked through to see if there was a Arathorn site, and then she decided that there was no Arathorn. I must be very gleefully glad that we got like half a page of Arathorn on stage.
Half a page is still too little, but
Yeah.
you can forgive me for missing that on a flick through of the three chapters. So, Chibipoe, I guess we have the burning question for you. Is this the favorite book, or did you mean the series?
Well, no, the series is favorite. The book sits up to pretty high for me. I love everything about the book. I love its cover, the original cover. It's probably one of, if not the piece of art she's done that I love the most. It's just, I'm kind of annoyed that on the background, I know on the paperback, they put this big, graphic with the description of what goes on in the book, events and whatnot, because it covers the other half of the portrait, and which is a really good portrait. And also, I revised my opinion. I used to think this book starts off slow and then just like picks up in the last bit, but no, this book just starts off wild. I have changed my mind. It is the best book.
I
not the bestest best. That'll be the next one. This one is a lot of fun. It's like, I think I'd probably call it my most fun of the books.
Awesome.
Like, it's just it's a lot of fun.
Awesome. I had a question to the team actually, because I know I missed the wrap up of the last book. Obviously, I did read it, but I couldn't attend. I found the last book super heavy, and I didn't know we discussed that. But the beginning of this book, I like the fact that it's back on an upswing of you feel like things are occurring. Like you've got, it seems like a slightly happier, more fun toned book, or at least you feel like it's moving towards being back towards his favor. I didn't know if you guys felt that as well, or is it just me trying to be like, please can something good happen to this poor guy?
Searching for positive vibes, are you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would say the last book, Fugitive Prince, is definitely bleak. Is the best word for it. It's everybody, pretty much everyone is in a bad spot in that book. like to some degree or another. And yeah, it's kind of rough, but yes, you are correct. This one has a definite upswing.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment of the last book. It is a bit more bleak, like you said, than the first three. But I think that serves a pretty good purpose going forward here. So the it was kind of funny. We took a little bit break, in between the last one and this one, and so going into this, I was like, oh, okay, yeah. It took me a while to get back in the groove, like in the first couple pages. But then I was like, oh, this is good. I'm back. I'm reading Janny Wurts again, and I'm reminded again of this awesome prose, and I'm like, oh, okay, I get right back into it, and it's enjoying it immensely.
I had a hard time stopping. I was like, I really just want to read the next bit, all of it. I was like, I'm gonna have to wait, but I just really want to continue. So
that it took me a while to get into this book, but I think it was a me problem because I was really distracted getting into it. But Fugitive Prince, it felt like coming back home. I think I was talking to Steve earlier today after our Berserk discussion, and I we were talking about what our favorites so far are, and I picked Fugitive Prince and Ships of Meteor. Ships because I love Takar's arc through it all and how he changes his mind about Arathon, and Fugitive Prince because I think we took a longish break, but between Vastmark and Fugitive Prince, and it felt like the opening, how pretty all the descriptions were, how beautiful everything was, and maybe it helped that we read Gallant in between. It felt like coming back home, and this also felt a little bit like that. But I completely blame myself for having a difficult time getting into it just this moment because I was so distracted while reading it every time I picked it up. But yeah, it did pick up and I was able to focus and appreciate a lot of it again. I love being back in the world, like you said, Jared.
Yeah, what helped a lot was that this first chapter in here, it takes place this almost like it's a parallel to the first chapter of the last book, with
Mm.
starting off with Alara, starting off with that little augury in the beginning there, that the little italicized what was it, poem or something like that, that has to deal with her choice for the fate of the boy there. And I need to be reminded, did she actually make a choice, or is she still
I think
is
she
that
had
still
a
coming?
choice pending. Yeah, when
Pending, yeah.
yeah. I forget if it was she'd know when the time came, or she could also choose the time when she made the choice.
Yours to choose when the time comes.
When the
Okay.
time comes. Okay,
Mhm,
right.
mhm.
So but we were reminded of that again. And so it brought me right back into her situation and her story. And I loved I really liked that because it really connected me back into how she started the last book, and then made me wonder if we're going to see some more of her. Hopefully, in the rest of the book, we'll see. But
Yes.
okay,
Yes, I know. You'll from here on out, you will see a lot of Alara.
awesome. That's great. She's a great character.
Cheers.
And what I really loved was just the description of Alara's situation in the coming cold, and all the descriptors of chill and cold that Janny uses. It's so reflected how she views Lorenda as this cold person coming to really just put a damper on everything that she was hoping. That she wasn't hoping it was going to go that way, the way it went. It was really a tough situation for her in that first chapter.
Lorenda, probably more than any other character in the book now, is the one that reflects fear and desperation and self-hate in an awful lot of ways. She is that character the whole way through. All of her motivations are kind of based around trying to run away from something or trying to attain something that she can't have. And she's become all really horrible to read in a lot of cases, which
Yeah.
makes the little interlude with Arathon and him laughing at her just all the more delightful.
Oh, I
you
know.
know?
Oh, that was
Yeah.
it was delightful.
I think this the comparative scene for this one is when they are meddling and Arathon's laughing at them in cause of the mistrade. And I have to say I love that. They think, oh my god, the Koreani, it's like the parents are out, let's throw a party, but the parents knew all along. But yeah, I loved the opening, like you all said, and also this opened like the Fugitive Prince with Ilera, but it also had a little bit of resonance with the third book, which opened with the sorcerers uh, getting about their business, because after we moved on from Ilera, it was pretty much almost entirely following the sorcerers for the next 3 chapters. Right. I know Vastmark is meant to be the middle of a book, but I still liked that the opening felt similar in following the sorceress.
Yeah, and I just love that the descriptions, Lorenda's descriptions, it made her seem beautiful but cold and distant,
Mm,
and it was just like the weather, and because she
yeah.
always mentioned like her hair was sleek and cascading, and the blue eyes and stuff like that, and it was really, I thought it was just beautifully put.
Mm. And the contrast of the white skin with the black hair.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think I've said this several times before, but I do not tend to visualize when I read. But with these books, it's almost impossible not to.
hmm
So I gloated for like 5 seconds because at the beginning of the first book we talked at the previous book we talked about whether the fact that Fionn Arith looks like Arathon will be what, what brings about the prophecy.
He
But
does now.
and I love that in one of the later news items the we see that Fionn Arith's face hurts because of the enchantment. That yeah.
right, yeah.
And there's that discussion about how he looks really arrogant as well. And I was like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought that was so good.
And
Poor kid.
yeah, and that seemed to happen fairly quickly, like
Mhm.
uh, that he was already, you know, seeming to come off with some traits of Arathon, because I
Mm.
know this is supposed to be like a 7-year plan or something like that, or
15 years, I
yeah,
thought.
wasn't it
15.
longer?
It's
Yeah,
longer,
yeah,
yeah, 15 years, yeah. So but it seems, I was surprised in that news item that it's like, oh wow, it's already taking effect. It's already having an effect.
Mhm.
But it's
And
interesting how it's interesting how that plan correlates with, is it Jarrett's vision, isn't it, of Arathon being in chains from Fugitive Prince as well? How those
Mhm.
two things, at least Janny is sort of leading us to think, oh, these two things are the same thing, which of course can be the total red herring that we can be throwing at.
yeah. Because I think we were also discussing how can all of these prophecies be true? Because how can Arathon die here and be in trouble here? But it makes sense if that particular prophecy he wasn't actually seeing him, he was seeing somebody else maybe.
Mhm.
So I thought that was kind of an interesting. It may not be, maybe we're being led astray, but at the moment I'm kind of like, okay.
Yeah, I thought it was a brilliant plot point because
Mm.
it opens up so many possibilities now, where if not one clone, then why not another later on? Who knows? And it or maybe that's reaching, but still, possibilities are open.
And it does flirt with the potential problem that a book that is very reliant on seers and all of that kind of stuff had, in that you take a lot of the mystery away to a certain extent. If everything's foreseen, you're kind of looking for it all the time. Whereas, okay, things are being seen, but probably not in the way that you expect, or the plans, or anything that happens. Johnny's full of surprises, as we know.
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Interpretation.
I didn't think of that at all, that the person that Jarrett saw could be Fionn Arith, not Arathon. Yeah. That is interesting because that leaves hope both for Arathon and for this person to be saved. Not, um, yeah. It's interesting about the arrogance. Do you think? Obviously, the features have been copied from Alera's memory of him, but it, if it's something that Arathon developed as a child, I guess it's a mechanism he's been building, the protection mechanism of whatever, shoving the herd down and putting on this arrogant front instead. That must have come pretty early, perhaps, or do you think that's just the adult features being reflected in the child?
Good question. Yeah, if it's based upon Alera's memories,
Mm,
then it's going to be whatever she pictures
mm.
Arathon as, and he definitely has shown arrogance in the past in her presence. So that's not surprising, I don't think. Yeah, that's pretty good. And to me, didn't Lorenda, wasn't she kind of like the devil, where with getting the boy to agree to that whole
A
situation?
sword? What a sword!
I'm
A
just like,
scabbard? What?
I was glad he actually tried to. At least he asked for something. He would, but I would have thought I remembered to ask for anything. I'd be like, all right. So I was quite impressed. He actually negotiated. I mean, how old is he? He's quite young. Like, at least he
7
asked for
or something like
something.
that.
Yeah.
Not
So
the
I
best
guess-
yes, it was.
Yeah, he's 7 years old.
Yeah, right.
Because it's been 7 years since she set up shop there when the prophecy first happened.
Yeah, I knew there was a 7 in there somewhere.
And I guess this is how the Koreani take all the children that they do. Like Ilera was also brought over to the order. I keep wanting to say organization, to the order, uh, by similar cheating, I guess.
Word
Yeah,
game.
she mentions talking. I think maybe it was talking to Erethan, or it might have been one of the sorcerers that she was 7. Like she was a similar age, and she had lately come to the realization that her order does that deliberately, just because they can get impressionable young children and mold them in the manner that they see fit.
Yeah, and the punishment for disobedience. Holy crap! I mean, like forced enslavement, losing all ties to conscious awareness. That's some brutal stuff.
That was horrific. Yeah, because she said about the lady that had done and she was just a vacant person. Wasn't she?
Yeah.
Like just completely mindless. That's terrifying.
So not only are you tricked into joining this order,
Mm.
then you're severely punished for disobeying them. It's not a nice order to join.
But I thought it was really interesting that, especially in these 3 chapters, and might continue afterwards, there was a lot of things restated about people's motivations and the limits they had, not only in terms of the Koreani limits, but also as there was a lot of time spent into what the Fellowship sorcerers could do and what their ultimate aim was and who they were protecting. Because I think some of us, especially me, have been sort of going, well, why are they not doing anything about this, or why are they not doing anything about that? But again, that restatement of they're not actually there to save humankind at all. In fact, quite the opposite. If all things go a certain way,
I thought that was really. I almost felt like it was an info dump when they were going across the river, not river, but in the boat across the sea, and then it reiterated that, and then came to that revelation of actually, if it all goes tits up, for a better phrase, like. It may end up for them having to destroy humanity. I thought it was an info dump. I think it was needed at that point because I had exactly the same feeling, Chris. I was like, I understand kind of, and I know we discussed it before, but it's not specifically clear about why they can't meddle more and so on and so forth. So I thought that was a really good way of doing it.
I was very glad of it.
I like how he was actually challenged by like a fisherman, like a regular fisherman, and of course the question is, why not act to save the children? And I thought that was that's when he starts going into explaining the explanations and stuff like that. And there was a lot of history given out during those explanations and the history of the sorcerers. And the one thing that caught my attention was he didn't want to have to destroy humanity again. which means it happened before, which is kind of frightening.
And it wasn't, I don't think it was because of this power that they are wielding, right? Which, by the way, a single grain of sand contained enough for them to destroy the planet.
Enough
Wow.
energy, yeah.
Yeah,
But I saw that.
I think they built some sort of nuclear weapon equivalent wherever they were from. Isn't that what they told the Bridian brothers? And that's why they wanted to stop the gunpowder thing. So I guess that was how they previously destroyed humanity. I could be wrong, but I think that's how. And also what Chibipoe told us about Satvir and Cal, um, who were you? I don't know if you were there for that, Chris. I think you were. It was in one of the internal discussions, not the final one. But yeah, but yes, they brought destruction, and they uh, severely regret it. But also about their time lifespans, they can live until the end of everything. They're already so weary, and it's only been 3 ages. I have to imagine that the end of time will be several thousand more, if not much, much more than that. So, yeah.
I thought we had a good discussion in this book as well about them reaching their limits, which is quite interesting because they said we know that they're so powerful and they can do all of these different things, but you had oh my god, which one was it? Had to take the rest, basically had to sit down after doing the dream.
Sandir.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like you had a big discussion about the fact that he was reaching his physical limits, and then you had a discussion about how actually he needs to look after himself because it's way easier to do things as a person than it is to be a spirit, I guess. So it was interesting watching or reading about these powerful people really struggling and getting to the end of their tethers, basically, because that's a really big deal if someone that powerful is like literally struggling. So yeah.
Does it mean though that because of the is that the deal they have with the Drakes, whatever they have to fulfill with them, does that mean that they cannot die or cross over beyond the veil, whatever that looks like, until they fulfill whatever they're supposed to? Or
Brilliant.
is it
Until the Peruvians come back.
yeah, or is ensure their safety, I guess. So humanity has to be in a state where it can't destroy itself and the Peruvians. That's when they can free themselves. But does that also mean that they can never die, whatever death means for other people? Will they just have to be spirits like Luhane and
The mystery.
mhm. and what does that mean for trade, I guess?
good questions.
No, great questions. Yeah, does it work both ways, basically?
There are questions that will be answered,
Hmm.
but not by me.
I'm sorry. Is he saying one of them's going to die?
We shall see. What I thought was very interesting actually in this period is that we actually get a rundown where each of them were at a given point in time. I think it's the first time that that's ever happened in the book as well. Insofar as, and of course, some of the places that they mentioned were like, I don't know where that is. Well, what are you talking about? That means absolutely nothing to me. But they also included Davian and isn't Salandis as well? Was the other one? You know, in that kind of conversation. And again, like, I thought this is a change of direction in terms of what is important in the story.
I thought that sneaking in of where the guy who's in self-imposed exile, basically, I was like, oh, we haven't. That's a note or a nudge in the story. I was quite excited about that one. Yeah.
Yeah. He's also the dude who made the fountain that these two drank from, right? Yeah. So yeah, it's going to be interesting if he ever makes it out of that. From is the mountain that was mentioned the same place that they put away the bad spells, the bad things? It's a different mountain, right? It's
It
I
is a
think.
different mountain.
Okay.
The location he's at has come up and mentioned in a previous book, and that's all I'll say about that.
I see. The whole thing about Silandis, is that how we say his name? I've been calling him Kilandis.
Should be. I didn't actually look at the glossary, but you keep talking away and I look it up.
Okay. So that guy, who we know is hidden by a unicorn because we got a news item about it in Curse of the Mistwraith. He, um, the thing about how his something that he made is beside another Paravian thing that you can use to send for help. I thought that was really beautiful how Luhain noticed that Sethwir had hung it there and how they all have so much regret about what happened with him. It's, I mean, might be strange to say, but it's nice to see the Fellowship, who are such powerful people, express emotions or feelings.
I fully agree. I think it's so adorable. When I was reading it, I was just like, "Oh my god, that's really cute." That he's like this like private pain that he's obviously dealing with because he can't contact his friend that's been away, and how they look after each other. Like they said that they made him sit down and like literally made him have bed rest after he dealt with himself, and they said that they'd done that many times to each other throughout, and they often bicker like a married couple as well. So, but it's like it's actually a really like exactly that nice, healthy, cute kind of interrelationship between them all. Good friendship. It's nice to see.
Yep, I definitely like that very much. And one of the first things that Sethwir asked, not Karamon, Luhain, when he came out is how long did Asandir have to recover before he left? Right? They're still watching out for each other. So that was all very beautiful, I thought.
Yeah, we got a lot of good insight into the sorcerers, and throughout all three chapters, they were involved in one way or another. And it was also mentioned too that they as much as they would resort to destroying humanity if they had to, they still cared deeply about humanity as well, because they're worried about the myths rate the race getting loose again, and they're worried about, I think there was a line in there about how humanity has a certain lack of magic at this point and would not fare well trying to fight back against another incursion. And so that was also another interesting point in how they're working to prevent that if they can.
I have several books ongoing at the moment, so I forget if this is where I read this, but was there something about humanity now not having or not using natural born talent in this volume? I'll see if I can find it. But I had a question about if that means that there's something that they're born with that they're not channeling or using, but I don't know what talent was being referred to.
Yeah, I remember something vaguely like that. I don't know if it's not using or just not as it's not as accessible or something like that. But I don't remember where that was. But there was something similar to that. That's what I was trying to bring up.
Yeah. That's what I thought. That's what
Well,
you
no,
were talking
I
about.
know Lysair's trying to stop it all, isn't he? So he's basically seeking people out who are showing magical talent and kiboshing them, isn't he? So I guess as an outcome of that, there would be less magic users. But I don't remember specifically about. But then maybe there's a lot to take in. There's a lot of details.
That's why when you say, Robyn, I just want to continue on. When I get to the end of 3 chapters, it's like my head is full. It is no more. I can't take any more. This is intense.
I kind of agree with that assessment. Like that's kind of where I'm at the end. This feels like the right amount to read and discuss each couple of weeks. But
no, I think it's good to have the break. But it's also good to be excited about reading the next bit. Yeah. So yeah, I think it works both ways.
Sure.
So then, this guy Lord Harradine, that guy's a piece of work, huh?
Just like everybody around Lysair, Lysair doesn't have any
I know
redeeming people around him. Like, doesn't have any people.
And I found it interesting that the Fellowship, Lysaea's mission to burn down the woods gave the Fellowship the excuse they needed to interfere in what Lysaea was doing, because they try to stay out of human affairs when they can. But when it comes to something like burning down the wood, that was a strike too far. And so that was interesting, because now Sander is gonna he started the preparation to protect the wood and drive away the townsfolk. And that's what led into the whole explanation with the fishermen and all that stuff. But I really liked how that kind of came about, and all that. It really gave us a good excuse for all that information to get delivered to us.
Yeah, and they seem to kind of not enjoy, but are like happy that at last they had a reason. Like they were relishing the fact that they could go and do something about it, because actually this is something they could get involved in. And I think it was I don't know, I kind of felt it like he was having a bit of fun, like when he went to the camp and they stole the horses with the clans people, and kind of like that wasn't really necessary, but it kind of felt like he was indulging just a little bit to kind of, because he hadn't been able to get involved before. So I liked that whole kind of scene of him trying to kind of help them out vaguely.
I also love the detail in how he called up the waves and the. I guess he had to work with the moon to change how it pulled upon the water, and I guess call the breeze and so many other things to extremely localize the effects of everything he's calling down to make the boat move faster. I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah, it just did all of that and doesn't disturb a single thing.
Yeah,
I made that
and
a
how,
qualifier, and I was like, oh my god.
exactly how specific he had to be to make sure that he didn't, like, he knew that if he hadn't taken this into consideration, it could have impacts elsewhere. So yeah, I did like that, reading
Yeah.
through those different things.
And then he went to sleep. Made me wonder how long they might have taken to get to this point where they can do all this grand conjury and not affect anything. The mistakes they made before, assuming they did, which they had to have because they had to learn how to be fellowship sorcerers, um, should have cost Athena a lot, I'd imagine. But yeah, I'm curious about that. Um,
Yeah, I wonder if they made a lot of those mistakes prior to Athera.
yeah.
You know,
Oh, interesting. You think, yeah, that could be possible too.
they've been around a long
Yeah.
time.
Maybe there were sorcerers elsewhere too, maybe. So the way I've been imagining this whole business with what pulled the fellowship to Athera is that they were like the Koreani too, that they made technology. They didn't have magic wherever they were. And then they came here to Athera, which has, I think Janny explained it as um it's a high magnetic field, and so it has more magic. So I've been kind of imagining them as no magic, but you're probably right that there was magic in what they did before, and now they're doing more of it or have more powerful versions of it here.
Stuff to learn in the future.
Yeah.
Always.
So what about this poor woman who's got to be the new wife for Lysaea?
Oh my god. uh, she seems to think that she's lucky, or at least her sister does.
His sister does, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I felt like she didn't. I feel like she kind of knows what it's about. I don't think she's expecting like a grand love or anything like that. I think she's just a woman of the court, so she kind of knows what it's going to be and why she's getting married. She didn't seem to be under any kind of like illusion that it was going to be anything else. But
Yeah, but she
bless
got
her.
warned. She got warned. Don't be like the last one.
It's also a just a nice little nod to, there's even differences in the town culture. like from Atara and Raytheon, they give women have a lot more freedom out there than they do in the cities in Tizen, where basically they're, as it described her, a biddable broodmare. She's there to pop out babies, and that's it.
Yeah, that's a good point. There was definitely a different approach to that joining than the previous one.
He didn't even turn up. Oh my god!
He's busy inspecting boats right now. Come on.
As if we needed another red flag for Lysair here, what?
busy not just inspecting boats, busy putting on a show for them, no less. Like such a show person.
He's an idiot.
I agree. I do not like him.
What do you make of this confrontation of Mayern when he confronts Lysaia? And then I thought he very skillfully did that. He was he was very sly about how he talked to him, and so I love how that panned out. And then this Catrick guy is planning on betraying Lysaia. Did I read that right?
Yeah, he's looking for a way out, isn't he? Just he's looking for opportunities. I think, like a lot of people are.
Question: I got so confused. Is this the guy that had already betrayed the other Arathon? Because and then he started working for Arathon because he was actually pushed into betraying him, right? That's the same guy. Okay, good. I was just checking my head. The right guy. Good.
But as a Coriani oath as well.
Yeah, but I did like that whole conversation because it was very much like, are you? I kind of am, but I'm not. If you're not, kind of discussion about if they're both on the same side. So I thought that was done very well. Because obviously it's really dangerous. Had he not been, like, they potentially would have had to kill each other or one.
Right. So. Yep. Yeah, that was a risky gamble on Mayern's part to bring that up with him.
Yeah. But maybe I read it wrong, but when they were scrying, the Coriani were scrying, they sort of got to Mayern, and as you thought they were going to see that Mayern was working for Arathon, they kind of got distracted, and then they missed the Mayern thing and went to the Duke, isn't it right?
You know why? Because they're scrying on Lysair, I think, and so as soon as he goes away, they don't. They might not see the betrayal part. I'm just kind of guessing there, but they were looking in on Lysaia and what he was up to.
Interesting.
On that front, what did you think about the Prime waking up and coming back and being just a little old lady in a blanket, essentially?
A blanket. I wonder what she could be up to.
Yeah.
Old lady in a blanket.
So she's dangerous. Not knitting in her spare time. That's not now.
Dangerous old lady in a blanket, yeah. And the new apprentice, I guess, because I thought that was the discussions between Lyrenda and the new apprentice, and just how stupid the new apprentice seems to be. Like, she might have power, but she doesn't seem to have anything going on behind her eyes. I thought that was I know you said you don't like Lyrenda, but I actually really like reading about her chapters.
No, she's an interesting character to read because she is so twisted.
And I thought that whole situation with her, where she's having to like swallow all of this just awfulness with the Prime and the introduction of the new apprentice, now she has to just deal with all this crap. I just thought was a really excellent chapter, and how they wrote it and everything else. So.
Yeah, I have no sympathy for her though.
Do you think the stupidity of the new initiate is Lyrenda's assessment and therefore could be wrong? Maybe like her biased assessment. She wants her to fail.
No, that's a very good point. I didn't even think about that, because she's basically just watching her going, she's awful, why is she here? But you're correct. If she's coming from a place of, I've just lost all of this, she's going to think that she's awful. So true.
And the Prime seems to be particularly nice to her. She didn't feel like someone who's who'd be nice to anybody, m- either because her position doesn't allow it or because that's her nature. So it's very curious. Is she just trying to annoy Lorenda by being so cute with the initiate? Like, what's going on there?
Yes, she's patient as never before, as none
Mm.
before saw her.
Hmm.
Maybe she's just trying to rub it in Lorenda's face. I don't know.
It could be. I also thought that, like, she doesn't have much time, right? She knows that this is like she's nearing her end. Does she? I mean, she's been mean to all of the other people that she's trying to made into her. Maybe she thinks that maybe that if she's babies this one a little bit more, it might go better. I don't know. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. And it also feels like maybe unless she's picked her, and unless she hasn't really changed her mind about Lorenda and she's only got this new initiate to upset her in various ways. It If she really is stupid, why would you pick someone? Are you doing what Lysa is doing with his new wife, where you want a complete blank slate that you can override with whatever you feel like? What is going on there?
It's a good question. And so she's spying on also Lord Harradine, right? When the
Mm,
troops are all felled to a man, sprawled and comatose on the ground, and when Lysaea confronts Harradine about that, he kind of derides him, and he says, "Do you expect our triumph over tyranny to be simple?" And um, he's like, "I wasn't born with these divine powers for the purpose of rich men's protection." So he kind of turns against, because the merchants were all complaining that there's no more trade because all these soldiers fell asleep and they're not allowed to go through Kathleen and what have you, and so in Lysaea is kind of like, I don't care about that. I don't care about the merchants and stuff like that. Um, and then that's when, and they're spying on that whole situation, right? That's how I got the information, really. And then, but then Lorenda attempts to spy on Arathorn at that point, and of course that totally turns on her, and I love how that played out because Arathorn was like, they kind of had a philosophical argument about magic, and he seems to know more than she does, and he keeps calling her dear lady. And you could tell it was just so sarcastic. I thought it was funny.
But again, I think it's a reminder that even though he's lost his mage sight, that he actually is a very powerful mage.
He's
At the
trained,
heart of
yeah, yeah.
again trained. And again, this re-emphasis of remember who these people are, remember what the motivations are, happens quite a lot. I think in these first three chapters, which again I really appreciated because it was like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. There's so much happens, it's easy to forget.
yeah, yeah. What did you think of Lysa's politicking, which Jared mentioned there with the rundown? I thought that was hilarious slash like so completely apt. He's using we're seeing the whole gamut of techniques that he's been using, right? Like first it's I am your savior, like if you don't stand with me, you're against my cause and whatnot. And now it's what I'm not here to make you help you earn money. There's a line in there somewhere that I highlighted and I don't have my book with me, but there's a line there about how one of the cities was trying to prevent the loss of prosperity by emptying their treasury. I thought that was a
Oh, yeah.
fantastic line. They don't want to lose prosperity, so they're emptying their treasury and handing over all their money to Lysair. So yeah, and he's planning on using the dowry to um give to sink more money into this cause. It, it's really interesting how he has all these trading people in his grip. All of them obviously, I guess they barely care about the Shadow Master only so much as it affects their trade, perhaps. And yet they have bought into this reasoning that if you don't give him money, the Shadow Master from out of invisibility will come and ruin your trade for you, which Yeah, we saw them complain for like 5 seconds, and then he ran this new technique on them, and now they're like, okay, cool, shut up and take my money.
But I don't understand how, because he keeps on saying like one setback and you're ready to turn tail. Like the guy between Talcoran and then the fleet's been lost in the sea. He's at about a 6th or 7th chance at the moment here of things that went hideously wrong for him. I don't know.
Yeah,
And Monica with
yeah.
so much power. One other thing I should say before I forget. I think it was the conversation between Seth Biernes and Ascendir when they were doing the scrying, and they realized that he was calling himself the Prince of the Exalted or the Exalted Prince, and they're like, "Eesh, that's a bit much, isn't it?"
Yeah, that was Lou Haney's like, aren't you getting a
Ruhain.
bit big for your breech?
Calling yourself, yeah.
Yeah.
Very funny.
Yeah. I think I didn't sense it as I was reading, but as we're discussing it now and laughing so much about all the things that are happening, I kind of understand what Robyn meant about starting on an upbeat note in this book. I guess a lot of it is not cheerful exactly. It's still predicting some doom, but it's not coming for 15 years. We can have fun.
Yeah, we get turned around.
Future
and-
Prince was dire.
Yeah, and he's not like on the brink of suicide like for many, many chapters. I was just like, oh my days. But yeah, so it just seems like the Seven are getting involved. Things are moving. They're able to help. Like the clansmen are finding a little bit of respite from where they were. I was just like, okay, it's not going to continue going down. It's going to maybe have a little bit up.
Yeah. And even the thing that the Koreani are plotting, which is supposed to bring about Arathon's doom somehow, the whole thing. Oh man, that was fantastic! That they planned so much so that Satvir wouldn't find out, and then he came out knowing about it. um,
It doesn't sound like a great plan, I have to say. It's not exactly the most foolhardy plan that anybody's ever put together. Oh, and this thing of, we'll just keep Lysair busy. Yeah, because that's been very effective in distracting Lysair. He's been very able so far.
I didn't even notice that, because the whole point was that they were trying to do it while he was busy, wasn't it? And then they were like, they won't see that. And I didn't even pick up on the fact that actually afterwards he was just like, oh, these guys have been up to whatever. But it's a really good point. I didn't even realize that.
So he came out knowing. So the sense of doom that could build up because of this plan, I mean, they won't interfere unless one of the parties involved asks for help, I suppose. But just knowing that they're aware of this and what could happen, and maybe they'll interfere in ways that they can, that gives some hope, right? I felt some relief towards the end, like, and hopeful for the future.
Yeah, I think I didn't like the bit like where I think it was Sophia was like when he came back to his consciousness and kind of went out and then he was like, and it's going to cause all of these issues. But because it showed that maybe what they did with the forest actually, in the scheme of things, may not have been the best idea. But I was like, that's a future problem. I'm happy for now.
Yeah. Speaking of saving the forest, the tree's consciousness. Oh my god, I loved reading that bit about how Asandir shared the tree's I want to say consciousness. I don't think that's the word that Janny used, but and how that could suck anyone in. And it made me wonder why, in the context of a fellowship sorcerer, that matters. It became clear later on when we found out how that was used, because Asandir obviously wasn't going to get sucked in by the tree, but all the people who want to set fire to the trees, they are now trees. So, yeah, I loved that entire section. It was so brilliantly done.
Even the little tease of Tolkien in it. These trees just going to get up and walk? Is that how ridiculous is that?
I also like that when you were seeing the Seven use their magic, like, because the main guard there was just like completely like, what are they going to do? And everyone knows they don't kill humans. What are they going to do against us? You know,
right,
how are they going to act? And you're kind of thinking in your head, like, actually, what are they going to do? But then you just see how they use, or how he was using his like magic or whatever, and it was just so clever. And of course, he didn't do any like harm, wasn't like physical, but how it was still so powerful. It was, yeah, I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. I think there was a part somewhere about someone was complaining that the Fellowship felled all these men, and then someone dryly corrects them that they've just gone to sleep. No, they're not dead. um, what else did I have to say about that? But yeah, and I did wonder too about how that was going to happen. Like, what does the leaves being awake and angry mean? I thought they were going to do something to put out the fire. I didn't realize that they would never even be able to set the fire in the first
in the
place.
first place, right?
That
Yeah,
was pretty brilliant.
yeah, that's good. I did find that line. It was in chapter 3 when Seth Fair was continuing to keep watch on the world.
Mm,
He mentions that should an invasion of free race ever sweep in from Marek, I'm not sure where that is, a population stripped of its natural born talent would be left defenseless and wide open to the threat of possession. And then mankind would have cause of fear, and women weep, and innocent children suffer horrors. So that made me wonder why the populace stripped of its natural born talent. Is this going to be the result of Lysaea's crusade against magic, or is it something that's happening over time, anyways?
Well, we know the answer to that from Fugitive Prince. Not necessarily. I mean, like there is all there will be no source, mage, talent except if they work for me kind of mindset. But that meeting that when Marin was spying on it, it was like we wish the Second Age mystery's forgotten. So
Right.
there's the town faction who want the mage talent gone.
Yeah, so they seem to be hiding access to magic, and so they've probably been doing that for a while,
and working to exterminate the clans.
And that as well, yeah.
Yeah.
But they're in line no less. So it's a combination of what's been going on plus Lysaea's crusade as well.
Yep.
Interesting. I thought this meant that everybody has some talent and it's not showing for some reason. But what you both said makes more sense, that since they're stripping the population of all the mages and seers,
Burn them at the stake.
Hmm?
Burn them at the stake.
I had another question to the team, and I wasn't sure actually. I can't remember if this came, but do we think that because obviously Lysaea and Grathini were working together, but it didn't really work. Obviously, it went a bit to pot. Although they still have a very similar enemy, but do you think there's going to be any direct conflict between them? Because obviously he is like, I'm done, witchcraft out, not my jam, blah, blah, blah. But he's not directly worked against them specifically yet. So I wondered if that was going to be an issue going forward, or if the Korathini were going to have are going to have to be worried about that at all.
Be afraid.
Yeah. Maybe he will burn them at the stake. I don't know.
That, yeah, I guess if they don't serve his purposes, they have to come under the radar of destroying all magic, right? Although doesn't his new head honcho tell him that he needs to hire talent to monitor sorcerer activity so that they don't have another incident like Kate would? So I don't know if that means that they'll hire a Koryani enchantress. I don't know if they can be hired, but if they work with them to give them that information, or just take one of the people that they would have burnt at the stake instead and make them tell them what the sorcerers are up to instead. But yeah, he did get angry at them once because the he ended up making a deal out of it, but the enchantress he met to ask for Arathon's whereabouts, I think, she refused to give him the answer, right? I think she said
until he traded, information.
yeah, and then he gave that's when he told them where the big crystal was. What is it called? The Great Stone?
The Waystone, yeah.
The Waystone. um so yeah, I guess as long as they work with him, he'll probably leave them be, but perhaps he'll turn on them too. This also took what was revealed about the fellowship's history and what they may have to do if things start to turn so that the Paravians may not be able to return. I was briefly afraid for them in Fugitive Prince, for the sorcerers, that it might get to a point, because in the prologue of the first book, it's unclear whether the sorcerers are still around, right? And that could be because, from what we know in this book, that humanity has come to a stable place where they're not needed anymore and their deal with the drakes is fulfilled, or that they've gone from the world for some reason. So I in Fugitive Prince, because Lysair's battle is not just against everyone who has any magic, it's also the sorceress. He wants to destroy them eventually. So I was briefly afraid for them, but I feel like after finding this out about the fact that they have to destroy humanity if things get really bad, I'm not afraid for them anymore. I'm just afraid for the people. Like, stop messing up. You don't know what's coming to you if you do.
Well, the people you got to really worry about are the clans. The clans.
Yeah.
They're on the really short end of the stick. They're getting attacked, and they're getting they're in hiding. For a lot of the areas.
Yeah.
So that's who you got to worry about, I think, the most. But
I do see what you mean, Varsha. Like, you kind of, how much of a threat can he be to them if they're able to wipe out the whole of humanity? Like,
Yeah.
but then I guess I don't know if that's gonna be a play going forward. Like, how strong is he getting with all of the stuff he's doing? But no, I agree. You kind of, you kind of feel a bit worried, but then it's kind of like power. How much?
Yeah.
But we haven't seen his power directly against the sorcerers either. We don't know how powerful his power is, really, other than capturing the Mistwraith there or dispersing it, whatever they did. Yeah.
I think we did. To be fair, we did have a in this. Was it this one? Yeah, when the guard captain came back from the dream world, and Lysair just had, because he's driven his horses all the way there really quickly, and he comes in, he's doing his light, and then he says, when the guard captain come through, he lies basically, because he knows that it wasn't his magic that brought the captain through, or whoever he was, and he could tell that it was someone who was much more powerful than what he was doing. So kind of there you can kind of still see that he's still vastly outweighed by that magic. But I don't know. I mean, in 500 years' time, I don't know.
Early Fugitive Prince, where he's making his big light show, to the people, and they just like co-opt his light show and be like, oh yeah, we're taking you to Althane now, and then bring him back like right within the same,
right,
second or two. So
yeah.
kind of like, no, you're an insect.
Oh, I'd like to. Robyn mentioned something that reminded me. Both of you weren't there, and I'm not sure if we got to talk about it properly. Jared, what do you think about the who was it, or what was it that called out to Lysair? Was it the man praying from within the Grimward at the end of Fugitive Prince? I mean, or was it something else? I had a brief thought that it might be the Mistwraith calling out to Lysair, but what did you think it was?
I don't know. I don't quite remember exactly how that went down.
There's so many missing persons within the story now. We've got Deviant, Coladas,
Deer,
we've got the Mistress. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whoever's behind it.
Deer had tossed Sulfanevand out, and he was traversing through that void between the Grimward and the real world,
Right.
and his exit path happened to coincide, probably by design, to the closest person that'd be able to help him, so he wasn't like left stranded out in the middle of nowhere without anyone to, with no food or anything. So it basically dumped him at Lysair's feet. Lysair made a big light show, but
yeah, it didn't do much. Yeah.
But at the exact moment of the light show, or just a few moments earlier, Lysa hears a voice calling out to him to save them or something. And the man comes out telling a story about how he prayed to the Lord of Light to save him. And the next thing he knew, he was out of the Grimward. But did he hear the man, or did he hear something else? Like I think Janny told us it wasn't the man during our discussion at the end of the book. But what was it then? If the man wasn't who he was hearing?
Oh, that's Trixie. I didn't realize she confirmed that it wasn't him. That's Trixie. Then yeah, definitely misread.
I think it just ended up being a coincidence. Because I don't remember her mentioning that, but I've got so many Jenny facts in my brain, so. But I thought it was just, he threw his light at the Grim Ward, and the ward was like, LOL, no. And then, while he was struggling with that, trying to get his power under control, he had brushed up against that void, and he heard Sulfanevand, praying for salvation just as he got dumped out.
Okay.
Sulfanevand, all Sulfanevand sees is like, I'm stuck in some void, and then there's a bright light, and he's out, and he's like, oh well, he must have done it because that evil sorcerer threw me down the mouth of the dragon skull.
I did think it was interesting parallel, because obviously when why am I so bad with names? Arathon was being brought out. It took his what was his name? The guy's blood blonded with, to go and get him, to guide him home, and that's how he managed to get out of the Grimward. But obviously this guy's be all and end all is Lysair. So actually, do you think that I know it may have been done on purpose, but do you think that actually his light show did kind of help guide him out, because that's the guy that he feels the most like bonded to, and that's how he got out of that, with obviously the main percentage being by the sorcerer.
Wait,
2 books.
Oh, okay.
Cool. So in conclusion, it probably was Sulfanevand that he heard, except it wasn't that he heard him praying. It was just that he happened to hear him at the same time. Is that okay? Okay, that works.
So it looks like Mayern's going to get replaced as an ambassador.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Oh yes,
I'm kind of wondering.
We're going to meet his grandmother.
It was the last news item in the very last last chapter we read here. So I'm kind of wondering. I hope that doesn't take him out of the story. Hopefully, we're going to see more of him, as even though he's not the official ambassador to Lysair. But I was a little worried that he might be taken out of the story. But since you mentioned his grandmother, I guess not.
For this arc, like Alara, the Sabridian will be all over the place.
Oh, good. Okay, cool.
Because he's a great character. So yeah.
I'm surprised by how much I grew to like him, because I think the first time we met the Spridian brothers, none of them I liked, and then men really grew on me. So yeah, you said grandmother. Was that mentioned here? But regardless, I'm eager to meet a Spridian grandmother. She's gonna be a what's the word? Firebrand? Is that the no?
Thereabouts. He talked about
Firecracker?
it to,
Hmm.
when he was in the tower with Talith.
Oh, okay.
Oh, we saw her.
No, he just talked
Well,
about it.
Marin talked about her when he was
Oh.
talking to
Mm.
Talith and whatnot.
Hmm.
Good,
Cool.
good.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm eager to pick up the next section. Like Robyn said, I'm really enjoying something when I read on to a couple of paragraphs and then I stop. Like, I'm not going to remember this if I read this now
Yeah,
for
right.
discussion.
Shit.
Honestly, I'm getting to the point where I'm like, I'm going to have to be like Jared and start making actual notes because so much happens. And I guess we're getting to the point where we're several books in. So, oh my God, maybe not that many notes, but,
That's only
like,
one. That's only one chapter.
but that's the
Wow.
thing, because we're a couple of books in, sometimes it's hard to remember if it was here or here or here.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm actually going to have to start making notes about, okay, this happened here and blah, 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 blah. But it's cool. It's exciting. So that's good.
Mhm. My note taking is mostly just highlighting and reading the day before, so I remember.
Yeah. So my process is to read the 3 chapters Friday, Saturday, Sunday before we record.
Mhm.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, see, I can't wait. Like as soon as we're done here, I'll be reading the next 3 chapters this week because I can't wait. That's why I got to write all those notes. Otherwise,
I have too much other homework for Varsha.
I know.
Yeah, this
This
week
one.
has to be Babel. How do you say it? Babel.
Babel, I would say, because that's the tower, isn't it? Yeah.
Mm. Oh, Babel. Yeah, 17. That's
Yeah.
pitching other reading groups. By
And the Asimov and the Ted Chiang. Just put that out.
yes, handing out all the homework. All right. Anything else that we should talk about before we wrap up?
Let's get reading.
Yeah, I like that. Cool. Chris, you want to do the honors this time? Start
Yes.
the outros.
So my name's Chris Moore. You can find me on my YouTube channel, which is just my name, even though there's only a sprinkling of book content on there recently. But I did do my top 10 books of the year, so something on there. But you can also find us in the page tune forums. Jared, you're up.
Yes, you can find me on the Fantasy Thinker YouTube channel, and you can also join Page Doing Forums to find us all there. Robyn?
Thanks. Yeah, you can find my YouTube channel, Bookends Biscuits, on the Page String forums, occasionally on X or Twitter. But yeah, that's about it. Chibi.
You can find me on the Page Chewing forums and on Twitter, also on Blue Sky, and I have a YouTube playlist, but it's other people's videos, so all of these. So.
A
Varsha.
giant playlist of all Wars of Light and Shadow videos.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can find me on my YouTube channel, Reading by the Rainy Mountain. I hang out on the Page Chewing forum a lot, where also please consider joining if you'd like to talk about these books with us or read along and discuss either here or on the forum threads. We'll see you in a couple of weeks discussing chapters 4 to 6. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.